everybody. We're going to get the Parks and Recreation Commission meeting started for today, February 28th, 2024. May I please have a roll call?
Chair Feck,
Present.
Vice Chair McGill,
Here.
Commissioner Aldana,
Present.
Commissioner Chang, Commissioner Clark,
Here.
Commissioner Lesnar-Buxton,
Here.
Commissioner Hernando-LaBerge.
Here.
All right, thank you. Are there any changes to the agenda?
No changes, Chair Feck.
Okay. And then we did receive some written public comment, which is in our agenda packets. And then we'll move to our public comment. So any member of the public may address the commission for up to 2 minutes on any subject within the jurisdiction of the commission that is not scheduled for a public discussion before the commission. The total amount of time for public comment will be 15 minutes. Is there anybody on Zoom for public comment?
There is not.
Okay, and I don't have any general public comment slips either.
There should be one. Oh, not general, sorry.
So, yeah. That's okay. Okay, let's do Commissioner Committee assignment reports. And I'll start to my left, Commissioner Aldana.
I did not attend any events or anything, but I did receive an email and a couple phone calls regarding Ortega Park. People in the community, they want to get an update. And then also conversation with people in the soccer community. They would prefer turf versus AstroTurf. So.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Clark.
I attended the Street Tree Advisory Committee meeting, and we'll be going over all the trees that we discussed in our agenda later today. I also attended the public workshop for Franceschi House renovation. I was very impressed with the number of attendees, the effort put out by staff to show the various options. And the only thing I really found lacking was a certain demographic was not present. It seemed like most of the people at that open house were residents or homeowners, and they were all older than 50. I didn't see any of the young adults in our community that use that park for legitimate purposes on a daily, if not weekly basis. I did mention that to the project manager, and I hope to see that addressed because they are a really important part of our community.
Okay, thank you. Vice Chair McGill.
We did not have a Park Foundation meeting this month. We did have an integrated pest management meeting yesterday. It was a special meeting that I attended, and it was to process a special exemption for herbicide use.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Hernando-LaBerge.
I did not attend the meeting, but I have been attending the show for the Arts and Crafts Show and enjoying it very much. And so my observations and experience of it, it seems that it's kind of reducing. So I'm not really sure where their numbers are, other than weather, potentially.
All right, thank you. And Commissioner Lesnar-Buxton.
Nothing to report here. Thank you.
Thank you. And I was unable to attend the Youth Council meeting, but I did have the opportunity to go to the SB Trapeze Company a couple weeks ago, and it was a lot of fun. It's a really cool activity, so just saying. And then Commissioner Chang.
There was no meeting to attend.
All right, thank you. All right. Any commission and staff communications that are not in the agenda?
Nothing to report, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Ceremonial items.
Yes, Chair Feck and Commissioners, I'm pleased to speak to you today about one of our employees who was recognized earlier this month for 10 years of service, and that is Supervising Park Ranger Ernie Rodriguez. So Ernie's been with our organization in the Park Ranger program for 10 years, and many people in the community are fortunate enough to come across him because he is out and about every week in all of our parks and facilities. So he has a really wonderful way about him that connects well with people even in situations where they're not behaving the way we'd like. He seems to have the right touch and approach to be able to turn that around almost, every time he's there. So we're really grateful to have Ernie on our team and looking forward to many more years with him.
Awesome. Well, congratulations, Ernie. 10 years is a great milestone, so thank you for your service. Anybody else want to say anything?
I had a question. Do you think, Jasmine, that sometimes when we have ceremony items, we can put the person's picture up? Because a lot of times I know people by their faces and not their names, and I would love to be able to go, oh yeah, he's great. Thanks.
Chair and Commissioners, yeah, that's a nice idea. I will bring it back, and unless I hear pushback, people don't want their pictures up, it's probably something that we could add. Yeah.
All right, thank you. We've all received a summary of council actions, and that's for our information only. The next thing is a vote on the minutes. The recommendation is that the commission waive the reading and approve the minutes from the regular meeting of January 24th, 2024. May I have a vote? Or a poll? Oh, sorry, yeah, a motion. Sorry.
I'll move to approve.
Okay, thank
I'll
you.
second.
Okay, thank you.
There's one minor change, though, because it says Commissioner Aldana. It should be Commissioner Sebastian Aldana, right? Everybody else has their first name.
Oh,
Yes, that's true.
that's true?
Okay.
Well, if we're going to,
Minor details.
We probably do need to change that, correct, on here?
Nicole's name is spelled wrong.
Sebastian's first name's missing? What do we do in this situation?
Chair Feck and Commissioners, you can approve the motion with the changes, the following changes, and then just enumerate what those are.
Okay, well, I'll just redo the motion and say I move that we approve with the addition of Commissioner Aldana's first name and the correction of the spelling on Commissioner Clark's first name.
And I'll second.
Okay, may we have the vote now? Thank you. All right, that takes us into the street trees. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Feck and Commissioners. The first Street Tree Advisory Committee recommendation for review is the request to remove a coast live oak located at 1105 Los Alturas Road. This tree is located within the front setback of the property. The applicant is requesting removal of the tree due to property improvements. They're doing some improvements to the actual home and also the garage, and part of the improvements to the garage is a realignment of the driveway. So the driveway changes locations and is in direct conflict with where the existing tree is. The committee reviewed the application. We took a look at the tree on site. From a distance, the tree looks to be in kind of fair shape, but if you get on the property and you look on the opposite side of the tree, there's a giant old fire scar. The tree, as the applicant noted, was subject to damage as a result of the T-fire. So during on-site discussion, despite the tree looking kind of okay, there was a lot of structural concerns from the committee noted, just due to the comprehensive nature of the fire scar and the decay associated with the damaged tissue. In looking at the rationale for the application, there was consensus that it was a reasonable and practical development of the property. The applicant expressed an interest in planting multiple oak trees on the property. They weren't sure if they were going to be able to do that. There's a lot of fire regulations up there that can restrict the density and number of trees on residential properties within the Riviera. The committee was really supportive of that. Didn't feel a need to condition more than one tree, but did want to kind of note and comment to both the commission and the applicant that they were really supportive of them planting, as many trees as they could on the property. After review, the committee made a recommendation to approve the removal on the condition that one or more trees that can achieve a mature height of 20 feet or more at maturity is planted on the property. And also that the commission could determine that the finding of reasonable and practical development of the property necessitates the removal.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from the commission? Vice Chair McGill.
I guess this is more of a curiosity question with a fire-damaged oak tree. I mean, they're pretty resilient. If it wasn't a reasonable and practical and prudent development situation, is this a tree that would ultimately recover on its own or struggle?
Chair Feck and Vice Chair McGill, it's a good question. It's kind of like a time would tell type of thing. I think you would have to really focus on like canopy management to manage just weight distribution and loading. So that damage on the backside, you've lost probably some portion of the root system, and the vascular system is really integral to like structural integrity. So I guess in short, with management, it could probably persist. I think the applicants probably would, continue to manage it as they had to if it wasn't for this, relocation of the driveway. I think, more times than not, you can kind of like nurture something like this, but it requires much more like intensive care. Otherwise, it could potentially fail just as a result of growing. They don't know better than just to grow, so which can be detrimental if they're structurally compromised.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any more requests to speak, but I do have a speaker slip. So Aaron Kita, if you want to come up. You'll have 2 minutes to speak. There'll be a clock on that little pad in front of you. So I'll give the floor to you.
Thank you. I have a few questions about the kind of like review of this. One of them is I noticed that there was no environmental review of this application for the tree removal, and I presume that was because this was considered exempt from environmental review, and I was wondering under what exemption that was the case, if so. And then also the applicant said that they were planning to plant one or more trees instead if they remove this tree. And looking at the property, I'm wondering where is there space to do that? It seems like the property is already pretty crowded with the building and would be even more crowded with the proposed driveway. And I guess my last question is this is the recommendation to approve this tree removal, is it being considered for the convenience of the property owner, or because of this fire damage, is it being considered a necessary removal, and therefore something that the city would be taking on the cost for? Those are my comments.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Slack, is there any context you want to do for answering those questions or address them?
Chair Feck and Commissioners, I think if I could get we can connect after this item and I could get your information. So the forestry program doesn't make like CEQA determinations. I think that you're probably correct in that it's exempt from like the process as part of the project, but we're happy to sort that out. I think there does exist opportunities for planting on site. That's kind of at the discretion of the applicant too. We just make sure that if the commission concurs with the recommendation of the committee, then there's a condition for at least one or more new trees to be planted. So we just ensure that that condition's satisfied. And then if you look at the municipal code, that's Title 15.24, the Preservation of Trees Ordinance, at the very end of that, it lists several criteria that are known as findings for removal. And if the commission does find that one of those findings is suitable to support an application for removal, then the applicant's granted permission for removal, but the applicant bears the cost associated with any removal or conditional replants or things of that nature.
Okay, yeah, thank you. And if you have further questions, you can, he can exchange his email with you, okay? Thank you. Commissioner Aldana?
Regarding oak trees, isn't it a basic rule of thumb that if one oak tree goes down, you plant 3?
Chair Feck, Commissioner Aldana, there's no specific requirements within this review body to have a 1-to-3 or 1-to-5 mitigation ratio. There's different processes, like a CEQA, comprehensive CEQA project could require like 1-to-5. With this specific level of review, there's no conditional requirement. We don't have a formal memorialized, blanket oak tree mitigation strategy within the commission's review, and the general plan simply states like a 1-to-1 replacement ratio, and that's historically been the way the committee's seen tree removal on private property. And I think just to kind of take that a little bit further, the committee as well as staff, I think would be in support of planting one larger tree that makes a lot more sense than 5 little trees that are planted with the expectation that some percentage of them probably isn't going to survive, which is why you end up seeing a lot of 5-to-1 replacement ratios. So they take out a huge tree and they put 5 little 1-gallon trees in a space that usually can't support more than 1 oak tree anyway. I don't know if that answers your question or not, but it's historically the commission's has not had, nor is there any formal oak mitigation strategy.
Okay, thank you. And yes, it does answer my question.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Clark?
I just had a question for the gentleman. I'm appreciative of your thoughtful and intelligent questions, and I'm really glad that you came. I'm also curious as to your interest in the tree and its significance to you.
I have no personal connection to the tree.
Okay.
I'm very interested in the process.
Great. That being said, we do have monthly meetings which are open to the public, and I'm sure Nathan can tell you about that too.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Nander-LaBerge?
Thank you, and I don't know if I caught that there was an answer to one of his questions about there was no environmental review, and so he's asking about procedure and process. What is he asking about that seems to be missing in this step, and why was it missing?
Chair Feck and Commissioner Nander-LaBerge, that step is handled at the planning level. They make those determinations. We simply review trees in the setback for either removal or denial or conditional approval. So planning makes CEQA determinations.
Okay, so not
It's
your
completely
jurisdiction.
outside of our purview, yeah.
Yep, not your wheelhouse, got it. Okay, and then a follow-up question. So I'm thinking about the trees that we've denied, and when property owners have wanted to eliminate a tree from their residential property, and it seems if the tree is just kind of in the way, but they're not reconfiguring their property, then we tend to deny the request if the tree is otherwise thriving, healthy tree. But if they want to put a driveway or put a building or extend a building where that tree is, then we are more tolerant of the tree removal. Is that kind of an accurate distinction between the trees that we've denied when it's been purely because the property owner just didn't want it there anymore versus the trees that we've approved because there was some other reconfiguration improvement to the property?
Chair Feck, Commissioner Nander-LaBerge, I think essentially that's correct. When you look at the findings and the support for reasonable and practical development of the property, most removals tend to be approved as a result of property improvements where there's really no successful strategies of incorporating the tree while making the improvements to the property. Very similar to this situation.
So it's kind of protecting the property owner's rights in that regard. But if it's disrupting the, what's the hardscape, thank you. But if it's disrupting the hardscape, or like we've seen one where maybe there might have been a retaining wall that was getting pushed back, those kinds of improvements were like, yeah, that's not enough, right?
Chair Feck, Commissioner Nander-LaBerge, I think it's obviously a case-by-case, application-by-application basis. And there does exist times where other sort of management strategies can be used. You know, say if like the driveway was right next to the tree and the driveway was cracked, there probably could be a strategy employed that would allow for tree retention. Whereas in this instance, the driveway, the construction activity alone is all completely within like the footprint of the tree. And if you want to allow the property owner to make these proposed improvements, the tree has to be removed in order to do what they're proposing to the property.
So what people probably should be doing if they want their trees removed is reconfiguring their driveways. Potentially.
Chair Feck and Commissioner, and that's not something for us to weigh in on here.
Yeah.
Might make a difference for property owners, but thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, definitely case by case. All right, I don't have any more requests to speak, no more speaker slips, so are we prepared? Oh, prepared to make a motion? Okay, Vice Chair McGill?
Yes. No, I am prepared to move that we support the recommendation of the Street Tree Committee and conditionally approve the setback tree removal request at 1105 Los Alturas Road on the condition that a tree be planted, a canopy tree that can achieve a minimum height of 20 feet. On the grounds of its reasonable and practical development of the property.
Yeah, just, the Zoom link is not working, so no one
Oh.
else is able to.
Oh, that's what's going on.
Apparently it doesn't have it here in this room. So,
Okay, may I have a second? Yeah, we're gonna keep going.
Second.
Okay, thank you. May I have a vote?
Chair Feck, do you want to take a 2-minute break?
Sure. Are you here to speak about this particular tree that we're discussing? A different topic. Okay, yeah, let's do like a 2-minute recess and get the Zoom thing figured out. Thank you. to get back to our tree on Las Alturas Road. So we have a motion. Do we have a second? And, okay, we have a second, we have a motion, a second, and then may we have the vote, please? All righty, that has approved. All right, we're ready for the next one.
And Chair Feck and Commissioners, the next Street Tree Advisory Committee recommendation for review is a street tree designation modification. It's for a very large chunk of Sola Street to speak concisely about it, it's from the 101 freeway all the way to where it dead ends on the east side of Sola. And that encapsulates what we would call the 0 to 600 blocks of West Sola, and then also the 0 to 600 blocks of East Sola. So that would be from State Street all the way to where it dead ends, and then the 0 to 400 blocks of Sola, which would be from State Street all the way to where Sola dead ends at the freeway. We reviewed this for various reasons, and a couple of the big driving factors were just to make species modifications for trees that are on the current designation listing that are essentially no longer compatible for different reasons. One of those species is a London plane tree, which we noted in the report is a hybrid. It's essentially like a European hybrid of a sycamore. There's a lot of research that's shown that it readily crossbreeds with our native sycamore, which over time slowly degrades the native seed stock, and we end up with like these hybrid California London plane tree sycamores. So it's long been a goal of the committee and staff to isolate these designations and phase them out so that we can just not continue to degrade the native seed stock of the California sycamore. And then another species is the Victorian box, which is a very short-lived tree species that we've found to be problematic. And then just an effort to maximize canopy cover and increase diversity. There was pretty extensive discussion about this whole street. We ended up with several groupings of species on sort of a block-by-block basis, and we've got a few slides to kind of denote that. So there was pretty extensive discussion. We looked at the existing species profile. A lot of these trees are already occurring and performing really well on some of these various blocks of Sola. And I'll just kind of cover them all, and then we'll recap with like a committee recommendation. So for the 0 block of East Sola Street, the committee recommended the use of ginkgo, the pink trumpet tree, and the Brisbane box. Brisbane box is a dominant species on the street currently. These other trees were added to increase diversity. The 100 to 200 blocks of East Sola Street, these are essentially the blocks in front of West and East the parks. I'm blanking on the park's name. So the pink trumpet tree and also the camphor tree. West and East Alameda Park, sorry. And then on the 300 to 600 blocks, the parkway narrows pretty considerably, so we scaled down the proposed species for planting and looked at the Catalina cherry, the Carolina laurel cherry, New Zealand Christmas tree, which is kind of the dominant already occurring street tree species, and then also the firewheel tree. And so after extensive discussion of, that was like the east side, sorry. And then on the 0 to 400 blocks of the West Sola, jacaranda is the dominant species. It's performing really well. And then there's one block in particular where the parkways are very narrow. And in addition to the jacaranda, they recommended the use of the firewheel tree and the pink trumpet tree. And so as part of a very, very large and lengthy motion, the committee recommended the use of all of these species on these various blocks for the 0 to 400 West Sola blocks and then the 0 to 600 East Sola blocks. And I can read the recommendation in full if you would like.
Let's get to questions first, so you can take a little breath. It's going to be a long one. Any questions or comments on the street trees for West Sola? Or East Sola? Okay.
I have one.
Okay, Commissioner Aldana.
Yeah, regarding these trees, how high will they get? And the reason I say that is where the electricity line is, as they grow and then they get hacked, and it just really, and that appearance is not a beautiful sight.
Chair Fack and Commissioner Aldana, so within each of these groupings, and this is actually a really good slide to kind of illustrate that, so the pink trumpet tree and the firewall tree, we would consider them small canopy trees. And that, part of the reason why you're seeing so much, like, one, there's a big motivation for diversity on street. It's just, it builds for a much more resilient street over time. But these smaller trees have been increasingly put in with these larger species designations, because when we do have utility lines or smaller spaces, they can be utilized and they're not going to be as subject to the overhead pruning that Edison has subcontractors performing. So like the pink trumpet tree, even if it were to perform amazingly and kind of get up in there where it was going to be subject to pruning, you would probably not even know that it was being pruned, because if it's about a 20-25 foot tree at maturity, and that takes a considerable amount of time. And we're doing that on every one of these species designations to give us just a little bit more flexibility and to try to minimize that appearance.
Okay. Nobody else has any questions, so would you like to read the committee recommendation?
Chair Fack and Commissioners, so the committee recommends the commission approve ginkgo biloba, I'll just say the common name, pink trumpet tree, and Brisbane box as a designated species for the 0 blocks of East Sola Street. The pink trumpet tree, camphor tree as the designation for the 1 to 200 blocks of East Sola Street. The Catalina cherry, the Carolina laurel cherry, the New Zealand Christmas tree, and firewall tree is the designations for the 3 to 600 blocks of East Sola Street. And then lastly, the pink trumpet tree, firewall tree, and jacaranda as the street tree designations for the 0 to 400 blocks of West Sola.
Okay, thank you. Would anybody like to make a motion? Commissioner Clark?
Can I, not the time.
Correct, yes, I apologize. Please, you can approach, yeah. One moment, so she'll have to start the clock, and you'll have 2 minutes.
Hello again. I really appreciate the goal of increasing diversity that, that this recommendation has. One question that I have, though, regarding the 300 to 600 block in particular, was why pink trumpet tree was not recommended for that, because if the goal is to increase diversity and the pink trumpet tree is being recommended for all of the other sections, why not also include it in the designation list for that one as well? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Chair Fack and Commissioners, so to answer the question, I think as urban forest managers, we're really limited on functional small trees, because the tree has to sort of fit into this box. It has to get to a certain size that you can drive under it and park under it and walk under it, and it has to function in these pretty hostile parkway environments. And during discussion on this specific item, the committee was starting to be cognizant of their overuse of the pink trumpet tree. It's queued up as a go-to for a lot of previous designations that we've seen in the last couple years. So trying to not overtree the pink trumpet tree was the big driving factor in trying to not use it consistently throughout the entirety of these blocks of Sola Street.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, would anybody like to make a motion on this item? Commissioner Clark.
Can I make the motion without repeating the entire recommendation? I would like to make the motion that we agree with the Street Tree Advisory Committee's recommendations for the 0-100 blocks of East Sola, 1 to 200 blocks of East Sola, 3 to 600 blocks of East Sola, and 0 to 400, 100 to 400 blocks of West Sola Street
Second.
as proposed.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. May we have a vote? Is everybody locked in? Okay. All right, that is approved. Okay, so we will move on to the next one, and we'll let Vice Chair McGill
And
step out for a second.
And I just want to, record that I will be recusing myself for the Crestline Drive discussion.
Chair Feck and commissioners, we have discovered during the 2-minute intermission that there was a technical error opening the Zoom webinar at the start of the meeting. And I believe that we had some people who were hoping to comment on through the Zoom meeting. So we will go ahead and reopen the public comment, but not yet. I'd recommend, if you agree, that we do it after item 6, the Adapted Recreation and Inclusion Services Programs item.
Okay, yeah, I agree. Let's do that. So anyone on Zoom, we will open up public comment again after item number 6 is complete, and I will make an announcement at that time. Okay, thank you, and we apologize for the technical difficulties.
Chair Feck and Commissioners, it appears we have one additional technical difficulty. The slide's missing for the what we'll call the 1,100 to 1,500 blocks of Crestline Drive, which is the last Street Tree Advisory Committee recommendation for review. This is also a designation change. Similar rationale. If you happen to do a site visit or you're familiar with Crestline Drive, it's up in the Bel Air neighborhood. There's a lot of trees, but there's not a lot of shade, and there's just not a lot of canopy up there. The existing designations, Australian willow is problematic. It's has the worst natural architecture or structure of any tree that's probably been planted in the city of Santa Barbara in the last 30 years, and becomes really problematic as a result of that. Weeping bottlebrush is a very common species up there. The weeping nature of it and its narrow canopy also doesn't provide a lot of shade, which is a pretty hot part of town. And then carrotwood is also a designated species for these blocks, and that's a tree that has a pretty high water requirement and doesn't perform well without regular water. So looking to utilize larger canopy shade trees, build upon the diversity. There was pretty extensive discussion about what would make good sense. The one thing I neglected to mention is the coral gum was already designated for use up there, which is a very small, very drought-tolerant eucalyptus species that was looked upon favorably for retention by the committee. And after discussion and review, the committee made a recommendation to approve the use of the coral gum and what's commonly referred to as Argyle apple, which is also a very drought-tolerant functional eucalyptus species, the coast live oak, and Brisbane box as street tree designations for the 11 to 1,500 blocks of Crestline Drive, which is the full extent of Crestline Drive.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from the commission? Yes, Commissioner Clark.
I just had a quick question. You just said that carrotwood required a lot of water? think, do you know the tree guy who writes a column for the Independent or News Hawk or something? He just did an article on the carrotwood tree, and it said it was drought tolerant, I thought. Did I read wrong, or?
Chair Feck and Commissioner Clark, it's Dave Gress is the one that writes that. He was a past city arborist twice. I think there's a lot of truth in that. We've seen a lot of decline in performance of it over the years, I think attributed to chronic drought. So I think, I would say every tree in town that has leaves and looks pretty decent, it has some level of drought tolerance, regardless of where its water use classification falls. So I think there's probably nothing wrong with saying that either.
Okay, Commissioner Aldana?
Yes, I did go assess Crestline, and I noticed there was a lot of parkways that had brick or cement. There was no trees. So what do you do there? Do you talk to the property owner and ask if they want a tree, or is it mandatory that there is a tree, or what's the process?
Chair Feck, Commissioner Aldana, we take different strategies. When we look at concrete in parkways, a lot of the work is done in conjunction with street repairs, where they'll go in and cut new tree wells for us. We survey, as part of comprehensive planting efforts, the neighborhood, and we'll send a notice out to every location that we deem viable. There are some times where parkways have improvements in them, and there's water meters and other utility things that they're hard to see that maybe make it not an ideal location, and we don't have a lot of heartburn about, if there's some bricks in the parkway in some of those situations. So it really just is it's very similar to most everything we do. It's kind of a case-by-case basis. But in the case of concrete in the parkway, we try to piggyback on street repairs and have, new tree wells opened up while crews are on site and can facilitate that work, because that's pretty hard for us to do.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Chang?
I can make a motion.
Okay, I'm just going to, one second. Aaron, did you want to speak on this one as well? I know you signed up for both. Okay, all right, thank you. All right, I think we're prepared for a motion now.
I'll move that we approve the Coral Gum, Argyle Apple, Coast Live Oak, and the Brisbane Box as street tree designations for the 1100 to 1500 blocks of Crestline Drive.
And I'll second.
All right, may we have a vote? All right, that is concluded. And that brings us to the end of street trees. Next item on the agenda is the director's report.
Chair Feck and Commissioners, I'm happy to share several items with you. The first is that staff recently held a community meeting to introduce the department's project reimagining the site of the Franceschi House at Franceschi Park. We had about 60 people attend, where they were able to hear from staff and consultants about the project, about decisions that have been made previously, as well as constraints and opportunities for this project. Community members weighed in and shared their ideas for the park. We also have done additional outreach, so kind of speaking to what you noticed earlier, Nicole. We have a survey available which closes today. We're very pleased to share that we have over 600 survey responses, which is really unheard of for any of our projects, and from people who are neighbors as well as community members in other parts of town, all ages and so on. So very happy about that. And we anticipate that this project will continue to go through its process and will return or will come here down the line once conceptual plans have been developed. Another item to share, during this winter's storms, we've had some pretty significant bluff erosion at Shoreline Park. So the park, we've evaluated the shoreline and have installed temporary fencing in all of the locations that staff have concerns with. And we will be developing more permanent adjustments to the sidewalk and fencing where necessary in the coming months. And finally, the Shoreline Park had impacts from storm events, but the Parks and Recreation Administration building did as well. So many of us in the administration team have relocated while that, because that building is not habitable at the moment, and will be undergoing some renovations to make it usable as a office again in the coming months. In the meantime, most of the staff have been able to relocate in adjacent buildings on that same block. Many of us are in 402 East Ortega, but we do have a few staff, including our director, who are a little further afield at the Cabrillo Pavilion and the Carrillo Recreation Center. And that concludes the director's report.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments? Yes, Vice Chair McGill.
Just a question on the Franceschi Park. Since unfortunately I wasn't able to attend the workshop, but I did read the written public comment with interest. I'm just querying, has there anything fundamental that's changed in regards to what's the master plan forward being an interpretive pavilion? I just noticed the comments about the house itself, and it seemed like that was a bridge that got crossed about 4 or 5 years ago.
Sure. Chair Feck, Commissioner McGill, in 2018, the City Council gave us direction to explore the feasibility of replacing the house with some sort of pavilion that would honor the legacy of Franceschi as well as Alden Freeman. And so we are now finally taking the next step to do that work. It's taken a little bit of time because of, well, a few reasons, as we always know. The pandemic we can blame for a few things, and then also just staff resources. So the idea behind the project as we move forward is to come forward with some conceptual alternatives. The survey and the community workshops are intended to really see and learn what people value about the park, why they go to that park, what's important to them, and what would be important for them to have integrated into the next iteration of where the house currently is.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Aldana.
Yes, just on the flood damage on the Parks and Rec at the administration building. I mean, did it get just a little more detail on that?
Chair Feck and Commissioner Aldana, the December 21st event, winter storm event that we had ended up essentially flooding Laguna Street with water so high that it was able to penetrate into the building through the parking lot. So if you can visualize the building, you do have to go up a set of stairs at the front entrance to get into the building. That's not where the water was really coming in. It was coming in kind of from the side, which is a little bit lower. And so we had a couple inches of standing water in the building.
And just in the parking lot, it's permeable pavers, correct?
Correct. So permeable pavers will absorb water, but not at that rate that the water was falling. So.
And Chair Feck and Commissioner Aldana, it was 2 feet of water. So what's happened is we now have a pretty significant mold issue and damage in the walls. And it's also in the air.
Yeah, you do not want to work in that at all.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. I don't have any other questions or comments, so thank you for that report. I don't see anything for old business, so we can move to new business, which is the Adapted Recreation and Inclusion Services Program.
So Chair Feck and Commissioners, we have two staff members here from the Recreation Division today. Adam Porte, who's in the audience, he is one of our recreation managers over youth activities, sports, and aquatics. And Julie Thomas, our recreation coordinator who oversees youth activities. For many years, Julie's responsibilities have included coordination of our adaptive and inclusion programs in recreation. So today you'll hear an overview of those two programs, what we offer, and how the programs work, as well as details around budget and staffing. So we're very excited to share more on these programs.
Good evening. Wow, thank you for such a lovely introduction. I don't have to give it for myself. So, as Jasmine mentioned, my name is Julie Thomas. I'm a recreation coordinator for the department. I'm also known as the inclusion coordinator. I love that title. And I'm just thrilled to highlight some of the amazing work that we're doing with both adapted recreation programs and inclusion services. So our goal is really to provide increased leisure opportunity and recreation for members of our community that have disabilities, their friends and their families as well. The department's been dedicated to offering this inclusive program for over 48 years, so since 1975. And some of the programs that will shine under the spotlight tonight include our bowling program, seasonal dances, yoga, and more. And I'll also give a brief overview of inclusion services as well. A couple of participants featured here looking lovely and all smiles at the Valentine's dance. The amazing young woman on the right was actually a recipient of inclusion services. I met her when she was 7, and she's about to turn 22. She received inclusion services in our recreation after-school program, attended probably every camp under the sun, volunteered as a junior counselor, and now I get to see her at our adapted recreation programs. Or when she's working at Trader Joe's on De La Vina, you can say hi. So our caring staff and volunteers, we couldn't do it without many volunteers, create welcoming, safe environments where participants can socialize with their friends, meet new people, continue to develop their skills, and it's all about just coming together and having fun. Christine here also received inclusion services when she was younger and is working on becoming more and more independent. She loves to bowl, as you can see, and dance and stay active in her community. All right, one of the most popular programs, Adam likes this one too, we're calling it our Bowling League, and we meet the first Saturday of the month from September to May. We do that primarily not to overlap with Special Olympics during the summer months. That's when their bowling program occurs. And it's at Bolero, of course, formerly known as Zoto's Bowling and Beyond. And we welcome all ages and abilities. So children, adults, seniors. Some of the league members have been participating literally for decades. We really roll out the red carpet to new members and invite them to be part of the Parks and Recreation family. We're always looking for new members. We have been targeting more recently, because there's such a high need in the community, younger folks who are what they call transition age, so folks who are graduating from high school and going into adulthood. The gentleman on the right is fairly new to Santa Barbara, and he wouldn't miss it. He has met new friends, and he loves to bring his entire family, which we welcome when they can come as well. $20 includes bowling fees. You can bowl 2 games if you can fit it in, shoes and lunch, and you can't beat that all-inclusive price. So come on down. All right, so our adapted recreation participants look forward to the 3 seasonal dances that we put on per year: Halloween, which you can see here, Valentine's, and the Spring Fling. Recently, we had over 15 volunteers help out, which represented over 100 hours of donated time, and it made the Valentine's Day dance a night to remember. We had folks from Westmont College who are taking a class called Special Populations under Professor Toms. And then we even had, I think there was about 5 folks who drove all the way from UCLA, who I guess there is a major called Disability Services. And we wouldn't have met them without our wonderful DJ of ability, Chris Benedict. Everyone knows him. And so he invited them to come, and they did. And, you know, it really is a program, I like to call it Party in a Box. We don't spend a lot of money at all, and I do need to give a shout out to both Trader Joe's and Turnpike Vaughn's, because they always donate refreshments and flowers. Everyone who wanted them went home with a little bouquet from the Valentine's dance. We have World Dance for Humanity that has also been a partner for many years. You can kind of see them in the picture on the right, but they come and they perform Thriller at Halloween, flash mob style. And then they came to Valentine's and did some interactive dancing to favorites like Cupid's Shuffle, I think was the favorite of that evening. Good time, always welcome. I'll take your $10 at the door. All right. Like I said, much of what we do can't be accomplished without the help of volunteers, but also beloved partnerships. Chef Dawn Harden is pictured here with some of the youth chef apprentices, and they're going to be catering the upcoming Spring Fling dinner dance, which will be held on March 16th from 5 to 7 p.m. Most of the food is donated, and the Westside Neighborhood Center has been a perfect venue for this because of the lovely kitchen that they have there. And the experience, it's kind of a double whammy effect. So we have a great dinner and dance for our participants, and the youth chef apprentices get to really experience what it feels like to cater a great event. It is a fundraiser, so I invite you all to come because all of the proceeds go right back into the program to help keep activity fees affordable for our folks. And everyone should know about the Thanksgiving luncheon. So the Thanksgiving luncheon obviously is held around Thanksgiving time, where the Kiwanis Club of Santa Barbara prepares. Actually, they donate the food, they prepare the food, they serve the food, and everyone gets a free Thanksgiving meal the day before Thanksgiving. And this has been going on for 45 years. Volunteers and partners look forward to this event year-long. It really is a lot of fun. Tri-Counties Regional Center is a critical partner who donates $200, which, believe it or not, goes a long way. And they also show up with 40 pumpkin pies and their staff to serve the dessert with whipped cream and smiles. Oh, this lovely woman, Jessica Parsons, the amazing Jessica Parsons. You can take inclusive yoga for all abilities, which is for people with and without disabilities, on Wednesdays at the Korea Recreation Center from 10:30 to 11:30. Jessica came to us about 5 years ago. We're so lucky to have her on our team. She happens to be the first ever female yoga instructor with Down syndrome. She has brought, I just think it's a win-win relationship. She's brought a tremendous amount of publicity to the Korea Recreation Center over the years. She was recently featured on the local news, KEYT, I really recommend that you check out her website because you can see all of these videos, including the KEYT special feature. She was also in the Yoga Journal magazine in 2022, which I brought, so she's famous. She's pretty much known internationally on social media, things like Pop Sugar. Like, I've seen the video, but I don't really know Pop Sugar, but you can check it out on her website. And she's just amazing, and as you can see, everybody is having fun. They leave relaxed and happy. As I mentioned, just a little background, Adapted Recreation was established in 1975. The department really took a deep dive into inclusion services in 2006 and has warmly embraced it ever since. While our participants enjoy the specialized recreation programs that we offer, there are some individuals that would prefer to join other sports, camps, and classes that the department offers. And so we provide a very unique service to community members with disabilities that request assessment. So again, our goal is for people with and without disabilities to come together, interact, recreate together if they choose. We want folks to be engaged in activities with people that share their same interests, not necessarily their disability. And the Inclusion Services team assesses each individual's abilities and needs. We want for each person to feel welcomed, supported, and valued for who they are. And we plan for reasonable accommodations so that folks can have a positive recreational experience. And it can include support provided by one of our amazing inclusion specialists. Just a little bit about budget. So we accomplish a lot, as I mentioned before, with very limited resources. What makes our program unique, I believe, is the number of people that are served every year. At the dances, there's probably over 20 different agencies who support people with disabilities represented. And most of the money goes to hourly salaries. We have a very small team of inclusion specialists who are amazing. And they are either coming to the dance or supporting people at our after-school program, year-round programs, and summer camps, and our summer fun recreation program. Oh, there we go. Okay, so the inclusion program supports the department as a whole, and our contractors and all of our staff are very well versed in inclusion and that it's everyone's responsibility. So super proud of that and happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Okay, thank you. That was a great presentation. Any questions or comments from the commission? Okay, Commissioner Clark.
No. I have a friend who takes advantage of your services that she volunteers at the hospital too, and I can tell you she was always so happy when there's a dance or something coming up, just to see that joy and inclusion. It's thank you. It's great.
Thank you.
I want to know what her dress looked like. She was talking about her dress for the Valentine's Day, on and on.
Everyone looked amazing.
Did they?
Yes. I think you've come to my party, Nicole.
Commissioner Aldana.
Just an awesome report, and great work, and keep it going.
Thank you.
Vice Chair McGill.
Ditto, ditto. I really like that you've engaged and integrated the Youth Apprentice Program. I think that's just a really nice marriage. But question I have, it strikes me, I mean, there's a lot of time, but there's an awful lot of donation involved. And if there's somebody who isn't necessarily going to buy a ticket at the door, but would like to provide a donation, how would that happen?
Thanks for asking. So I can send them a link to Park.
So it's through the
And-
Park Foundation?
Yes. They can register and buy a ticket, and if they, let me know that they're not coming, so we don't need to worry about counting them as the food, but they can also make a donation via Park.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Clark.
One more question. If someone new moves to town that has, special needs, who would they call? I have a friend who also just moved to town. She has an adult daughter, and I told her about the dances and stuff. How do they find you?
Definitely. I would direct them to the website for sure. There is a wealth of information. If you go to the city's website and type in either the words adapted or inclusion into the search bar, it'll bring you to the website that has all of this information that I just gave you and my contact information, and happy to just have people pick up the phone and happy to talk to anyone.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much. We appreciate your guys' time and sharing that with us. Okay, so that is the last presentation we have. So we're going to circle back and go to public comment. So let me go back to the note. Any member of the public may address the commission for up to 2 minutes on any subject within the jurisdiction of the commission that is not scheduled for public discussion before the commission. Total amount of time will be 15 minutes. I don't have speaker slips for people in person, but is there anyone on Zoom?
We do have someone online. Her hand is not raised. Victoria, I'm going to allow you to speak if you have anything to say. Please unmute yourself. They're not unmuting themselves.
No? Okay. And that's the only person online? Okay.
Right.
All right. Well, then that takes us to the end of our meeting, and we can conclude for today. That's adjournment at 5:09 p.m., and our next meeting will be Wednesday, March 27th. All right. Thanks, everyone.